and we're really happy that everyone can join. So my name is Jamie Garth, and we ask that you do stay muted, but we are taking questions and comments through the chat feature, and we'll try to cover those in the Q&A portion today. So Children's Advocacy Day was established in 2004, and this was an effort to bring together advocates from all across the state to speak out for children's safety, health, and education, and economic welfare. Since then, we've transitioned to a full week to have even more opportunities to make Kentucky the best place to be a kid. So each year, hundreds of advocates from various counties convene at the Capitol in Frankfort to champion children's rights and advance the priorities outlined in the blueprint for Kentucky's Children Agenda. We're really excited to welcome so many of you veterans that I'm seeing in the chat, and all of you newbies as well. For those attending call for the first time, we hope that you find it to be an experience that leaves you feeling inspired and empowered. These events provide a wonderful opportunity to connect with others who share a passion for advocating just like you. So during the week, you'll have opportunities to participate in meaningful discussions, attend different types of events, and gain insights from industry experts. So we invite you to share your thoughts and your viewpoints throughout the week, as every voice plays a vital role within this work. But before we explore what's on the agenda for call, I want to express our gratitude to all of the sponsors of Children's Advocacy Week. Their support makes this essential advocacy work possible. Thank you to our signature sponsor, Aetna Better Health of Kentucky, our strategist sponsors, the Hager Foundation and Save the Children, and to our advocate sponsors, Attend Behavior, Jefferson County Teachers Association, Kentucky Methodist Children's Home, Sunrise Children's Services, and WellCare. We also want to thank all of the Blueprint for Kentucky's children partner organizations and advocates who consistently show up for kids, including many of you that are present today. You know, we're in awe of all of our sponsors and their commitment to kids. So thank you to everyone who supports us. So now we're going to hear from some of the KYA team about details for next week, along with some bills that have already been filed. So I will kick it over to Alicia to discuss the current Frankfort landscape.
Thanks, Jamie. Hey, everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Alicia Watley. I'm the Senior Policy and Advocacy Director here at Kentucky Youth Advocates. I think I shared in the chat, I think this is my 7th year of Children's Advocacy Week. When I started, it was just Children's Advocacy Day, pre-COVID. And so I've done several as a staff member here at KYA. I also attended a few just as an attendee before I had a job here. So definitely been around at these events for quite a while and have seen just the impact that it can make, and love to see everyone showing up for Children's Advocacy Week every year. So as we prepare for next week and kind of get folks, both those who have been there before and our new folks ready, I want to just kind of share some things that are happening in Frankfort, an overview of what we're seeing during the legislative session. The Children's Advocacy Week is a little bit later in the session this year than it has been previously. So different opportunities, really exciting opportunities to see some progress on bills that folks are supporting. So we wanted to be able to highlight those for everyone today. So I will just start by sharing some basics here. It is a 30-day legislative session. Many of you all probably know that. So it's a little bit shorter of a session. It's not a budget year in Kentucky. So we are seeing, in theory, fewer bills passed is what we expect. We're on day 18 today. Next week, obviously, we'll be even further into that 30 days. And when I say fewer bills, I mean that that's what we've heard. But as you can see on the screen here, there are still over 1,000 bills filed. So over 200 in the Senate, over 800 in the House. We expect a very small fraction of the number to be passed and actually get attention this session. So although we see a lot of things happening in terms of bill filings, we don't expect all of those to get attention or actually be heard. But the good news here at KYA and for all of our Blueprint partners is that we are looking really good with 8 out of the 10 Blueprint for Kentucky's Children Priorities do have bills filed, which is really great news. Some of them even have more than one bill filed, one in each chamber, which is great. And we've seen a lot of support and movement on items that are on our blueprint. So we wanted to highlight some of that for you all today. I'm going to get into that, the specifics of all those bills in just a few minutes. But I also wanted to just take a few minutes to give you all some context as you're preparing, as you're listening to the updates on bills, and then kind of preparing for what that could mean for your legislative visits next week. We are, as I said, this is occurring a little bit more towards the end of session than usual. So we have more of an opportunity to think about the progress that's already been made on some of these priority bills, and then also think about what action folks can be taking to get them past the finish line by the end of session. So understanding the status of each bill is going to be important so that when you're meeting with legislators, you kind of have an idea of what the next steps are for each bill. So I'm going to be, in just a few minutes, we'll have it up on the screen. I'm going to be sharing the current status of each of our blueprint bills. Keep in mind that we're still a week out from our day at the Capitol, so some of these statuses could change before next week. A good way to keep up with that is the bill tracker that's on our website. We have a tool for that that makes it really easy to kind of see where bills are in the process, and we are continually updating that as things move and change each day. So as you plan for next week, and if you do have meetings with your legislators scheduled, maybe jot down some of these bill numbers and then keep an eye on those statuses over the next week as we get closer, to help you kind of dictate the conversations that you might be having. And then even if you're somebody who is not planning to be there in person, can't make it to the Capitol, or you don't have a meeting scheduled with a legislator, there's still opportunity to take action on these items. So it's still great to figure out which ones you're interested in speaking out on, and then thinking about just reaching out to your legislator, whether that's an email or a phone call, to talk about why they should be supporting these items. So we will dive into these policy updates with you all. I think hopefully everyone on the call is aware of the Blueprint for Kentucky's Children agenda this year. We've had lots of opportunities to kind of dive in and learn about these priorities. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about what each priority is. I'll give kind of a high level, and then we will talk about the status. So if we want to go to the next slide here. So the first couple that you will see on your screen are related to child welfare. And the first one is to find ways to boost child safety and reduce the risk online when it comes to sexual extortion or sextortion. So there are some pieces of this priority that are criminalizing sextortion in our legal code here in Kentucky, and then making it a sex crime, and also some pieces around education and awareness building through our school system to make sure that students and also those around them kind of know what to do if this does come up, and be aware of the predators that they can find online. And so we have some really great news around this effort. We have bills filed in both chambers on this priority. So Senate Bill 73 is from Senator Julie Rocky Adams, and that bill has already passed out of the Senate. So it is well on its way to full passage. It is awaiting a committee assignment in the House, so we're looking forward to hearing that soon. And there is a House version, House Bill 47 from Representative Baker, but because the Senate bill is moving, we might not see any action on House Bill 47, and Representative Baker will likely be supportive of the Senate version as it moves through the House. So very exciting movement on that one. The next one that you'll see here is something that we've been working on for a few years at KYA, and this is all around keeping kids safe in their school environments and protecting them from potential risk of inappropriate behavior with faculty or teachers in their building. So reducing the risk of sexual abuse and exploitation by increasing increasing safety for students by ensuring appropriate disclosures and checks are happening, and especially limiting or prohibiting the use of non-disclosure agreements for faculty members. So this has been filed for a few years in a row from Representative Tipton, and this year it is House Bill 36. It has been filed, but it has not had a committee hearing in the House yet. So we're looking forward to hopefully that being on an agenda very soon. Here we go. Okay, so the next two that you'll see on your screen here are related to youth tobacco nicotine use and vaping. KY has been talking about this for a lot of years. It continues to be something that we're focused on. And we have a couple of bills filed this year that we're really excited about. So the first one you'll see here is really licensing our retailers of nicotine products. So things like vapes, but also traditional cigarettes, cigars, chew tobacco, things like that. And by licensing retailers, we can make sure that we're holding them accountable to not selling underage and really enforcing that Tobacco 21 law that we have on the books here in Kentucky. So Senate Bill 100 from Senator Higdon has been filed. And again, this one is on the move. It has passed through the committee in the Senate and it is waiting for a full vote on the Senate floor. So we expect that to happen hopefully this week. And so by the time we get to next week, that one might already be in the House as well. So very exciting movement happening there. And then the second one you'll see on your screen is all around supporting prevention and cessation programming for kids. So Kentucky was part of a multi-state lawsuit against Juul several years ago, and we're getting some settlement dollars from that lawsuit. So we are advocating that those dollars go back to prevention and cessation programming for kids. We know that there's a lot of kids that are already using these products that want to quit, and we need those supports in place for them. So House Bill 187 from Representative Duval has been filed, and it has not yet been heard in the House, but we are waiting for that committee hearing to happen as well. So that one is moving along, and we will go to another health item on the top of your screen here is all around focusing on maternal health. So again, something that's been filed for several years in a row. Is around making it easier to establish and license freestanding birth centers in Kentucky, which will help with access to care and creating equitable spaces for moms to deliver and receive their prenatal and postpartum care. So we are really excited to see the progress on this bill already this session. Senate Bill 17 from Senator Funky Fromeyer has already passed the full Senate, and it is just awaiting an assignment to a committee in the House right now. There's also a House version of this from Representative Nemes, which is House Bill 90. And similar to the one I mentioned earlier, we might not see movement on House Bill 90 as the Senate bill is already in the House. So we can follow along as that one moves. The next one that you'll see here is around efforts to reduce the instances of young children with special needs being not able to access childcare. So we have seen some data to indicate that young children 0 to 5 are more likely to be expelled or not accepted into childcare settings because of special needs that they might have. And so we're looking for some efforts to better train childcare providers on how to support those children and also incentivize programs to serve children with special needs through the All Stars program here in Kentucky. And this year, we did not see a bill filed on this item. However, we have been in conversations with several folks in the legislature who are really interested in prioritizing this issue. So we're hopeful that we'll have some longer conversations in the interim and really look for some progress on this in 2026. And we are getting towards the end, y'all. I know there's a lot on these slides. Okay, so a couple of items in the juvenile justice space, or the justice and juvenile justice space. So the first one that you'll see here is all around how we address children who are detained and what happens in the process if they are being questioned by the police. So we want to make sure that minors who are detained and being questioned have the opportunity to speak to a juvenile attorney before they can waive their Miranda rights. Because we have kids who are, there's no minimum age in Kentucky to be arrested or charged with a crime. And so we can have very young kids who are put in situations where they don't have anybody advising them or helping them make these decisions before being questioned. And we want to make sure that they have that support as they're making those decisions that can be really consequential for a long time for them. So again, this is one that we did not see a bill filed this session. So we don't have a bill number to share, but we do have a couple of folks in the judiciary space in our legislature who are really interested in this issue. And we have some conversations slated for the interim to again look at 2026 for this priority. And the second one on your screen, we've seen lots of movement and interest around this across the state. And this is really to reduce the impact on kids and families when their parent might be incarcerated or charged with a crime. So, as a dependent or as a primary caregiver to a dependent child is going through a legal process, especially for low-level nonviolent crimes, we are looking to have courts consider their caregiver status when they do their sentencing and consider alternatives to detention or jail time for those caregivers to reduce the impact on their children and the community as a whole. And we have two different bills filed, House Bill 291 from Representative Wilson. And that one has been on the move. It did pass a House committee, and that is waiting for a full vote in the House, which we think might happen this week. So that one could be in the Senate next week. And then again, we have Senate Bill 118 from Senator Rocky Adams. This one has not been heard in a committee yet, but it is assigned and waiting for that hearing to happen. So those are on the move. All right. And then I think these might be the last two. Some housing items. Mara's nodding. I think these are the last two. Some housing items on the agenda this year. So a couple different things to promote just stability for kids and families in their housing situations. The first one here is around making some common sense changes to the eviction process. And really the two big priorities here are to seal filings that do not result in an eviction. So if an eviction is filed, but it is dismissed, we want to make sure that those do not continue to show up on a family's record for years to come. And then also prohibiting minors from being named on eviction filings, which we know is still happening and can impact that kid's, again, housing record as they grow and try to get housing themselves. And we are excited to see that there is a bill filed on this, House Bill 534 from Representative Whitten. And this one has not yet been heard in a committee, but it was filed right at the end of the filing deadline. So we are expecting that that one might be heard hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And then the second one that you'll see here is all around protecting families, especially during extreme weather events, from having their utilities disconnected. So if there is an extremely hot or extremely cold temperatures happening or forecasted, that utilities cannot disconnect families during that time. And then also making some changes to create avenues to be reconnected quicker if families did have their utilities cut off. And so we have seen Representative Wilner sponsor this bill in the past, and she has once again brought a bill this year, House Bill 326, and that one is waiting to be heard in committee as well. So I think that gets through the current status of all of our bills. I'm sure there'll be time at the end for questions, so be thinking if you have any of those. And I'm going to pass it back over to Mara to tell us a little bit more about resources.
Yeah, thanks, Alicia. So I'm Mara Powell with KYA. This will be my 10th Children's Advocacy Day. I've seen different iterations of it over the last decade, which is really cool. Appreciate some familiar faces and new faces on the call today and hearing about these updates, and we're excited to see you next week. So yeah, Alicia just gave us a thorough, look at where all of our blueprint priorities sit right now. And I know with lots of different advocates on today, from the child welfare space to public health to schools, there might be a couple issues that resonate with your sector more than others. But we also love when there's cross-sector advocacy happening. So if something really resonated, or you're like, you know what, I'm in the child welfare space, but the housing work is really something that I see impacting my families. Hey, contact Representative Whitten and show your support for that bill, or contact your legislators about it. So we just wanted to real quick kind of run through some advocacy resources to make sure that you're aware of on the KYA website as we're going into the Children's Advocacy Week next week. And we're only, like Alicia said, we're on day 18, which means there's not too many days left in this 30 working day session. So our bill tracker, if you haven't checked that out, I know Clarissa dropped the link there in the chat for you all. That's where you can check out the up-to-date status on each of the bills we talked about today, in addition to some other bills that are good for kids. And you'll find then supplemental information, whether that be the fact sheets or links to who the bill sponsor is or the committee, so you can see who you could reach out to if you're a constituent of any of the members. to really, get that going. Our advocacy toolkit, which was just dropped in there too, offers some other ways in which you can stay plugged in and take action throughout the session. I know we've mentioned this. We've had a couple different calls to action over the last couple of months of session. Scheduling meetings with legislators. On that toolkit, we kind of break down how to look up if you don't know who your state senator and representative are. You can look up how to contact them. It usually shares their email, their call line, social media if they have it and they share it, a little bit more about them, what committees they serve on, that sort of thing. So checking out those. And then we also on our advocacy toolkit offer some best practices for when you are setting up meetings or writing them an email or letter, calling them, or just going to one of those meetings, and some best practices for that. So check that out. We also, back in January, on a Lunch and Learn, went through that. So we have that recording of that webinar up on our website if you are interested in learning more. But if you haven't already and you're planning to join us at the Capitol on Wednesday, March 5th, next week, it's a perfect time to set up a meeting with your legislator as a group or as an individual. So check out that toolkit, find the information that you need. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. But really, it's your legislator wants to hear from you as a constituent. So, us reaching out can do so much, but really it is about, from your community, whether you're from far eastern, far western, northern, anywhere, any of our jurisdictions, reaching out to your personal legislator is way more impactful than just our general advocates being able to make that ask. So do try to do setting up those meetings. Maybe send an email after this webinar today to get that set up for next week, because they will have busy schedules. So you won't necessarily most likely be able to just stop by without setting up time. So if you plan to be there in Frankfort next Wednesday, go ahead and try to get on your state senator or state representative's calendar today if you can. And then finally, on that advocacy page, we have a link to our action alerts page. And that's where we list out all the bill numbers that Alicia ran through today to have a quick hit item. So if you give, your legislator a call and you want to just leave a message for them to say like, hey, Senator so-and-so, please vote yes on, Senate bill, blah, 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 and run down the list so that they know exactly who you are and what you're asking them to do as their constituent. All right. And I'm now going to share more about the week's schedule for next week. So I know we've been sharing this out if you've been on our email blasts, our social media, and lots of other different ways we've been communicating with partners and our youth groups today who are joining us today. This has been out there, but let's just kind of quickly run through. And if you haven't signed up for our virtual events, we encourage you to do so. So first of all, we're going to be kicking off on Monday at 10 a.m. For our Children's Advocacy Week kickoff event, and that is virtual through Zoom. And when you sign up for each of these events, when you do the registration form, you will be sent the Zoom information, and we'll also have that live on our website the day of. So it should be readily available for you all. But that kickoff event, we're going to have some opening remarks from a young person. Terry Brooks, our executive director, will be talking with Lieutenant Governor about, the Frankfort landscape and kids. And then we also will have a quick panel with a couple of key Kentucky journalists and what their perspective is. We get advocate perspective and leader perspective throughout the week, but also getting our key journalist perspective on what they're seeing, trends, and, as they're keyed into a lot of Frankfort happenings, we're going to get their perspectives as well. We'll have Sarah Ladd from the Kentucky Lantern and John Cheeves from the Herald Leader. So tune in for that. We'll have some final reminders on there too, but that kicks off the week full of events at 10 a.m. on Monday. Then on Tuesday, we have two really great virtual events with some Kentucky legislators. So On Tuesday at 11 a.m., we have the Next Generation of Kentucky Leaders conversation, and that's with Representative Rachel Rourke and Representative Peyton Griffey, who are among some of our youngest legislators and members of the General Assembly. And so, kind of sharing their perspective as a young person. They're in their mid-20s who are in this space and have leadership roles and, are advocating for their constituents and talking about their experience and how to kind of as fellow young people who may be tuning in, what they can do to be active participants in their community as well. And then at noon, we have a prioritizing kids during session legislator conversation, and that's with Senator Cassie Chambers Armstrong and Representative Duval, and they'll be just talking about kids issues from their perspective. Those two are sponsoring a couple of bills that are kid related and that are our blueprint priorities. So we're really glad to have them joining us to give their perspective and as key leaders in the legislature to be able to share about what they're seeing as priorities for kids during the session, how they're making kids count throughout the session, and to really help mobilize and galvanize on the issues that they're leading. So those two events at 11 and at noon on Tuesday, and these are Eastern Standard Time for our folks who are in Western Kentucky. Make sure to note that, but those are happening on Tuesday. Then Wednesday, of course, is the big day at the Capitol. We have the rally for Kentucky kids in the Capitol Rotunda beginning at 11 a.m. this year. And so, usually we had a 10 a.m. start time. With that 11 a.m. start time, we're hoping it gives folks some time to be able to get into the Capitol. We know parking is usually tight, especially because they're doing some construction around the Capitol. So just be aware of that. Give yourself time to get parked, to get into the building, because there's usually some lines. And don't forget your ID. Everyone who is 18 and older, including students, has to have an ID to be able to enter the building. So have that on the ready. We encourage you to try to get to the Capitol between 10 and 11 a.m. That'll give you some time to get settled, find a spot to watch the rally. We also will have that social media station up on the mezzanine, and you can snap pictures with your group, or individuals will have signs. We love to make a social media splash that day. So go check that out. And then throughout the rally, we will have some speakers. We'll have some youth speakers. We'll have remarks from our executive director, but we'll also have Governor Beshear. And then we have Senator Givens and Representative Heverin to be able to give some representation from our House and Senate leadership. And so we're really eager to hear from them. Then we have a couple of a short awards presentation to some young leaders who have been really stepping up in their communities and in Frankfort over the last year that we want to celebrate and highlight. So we're really excited about the lineup that we have this year. And it's usually, for those of you who have joined in the past, there's such a great energy in the rotunda. We begin and end with cheers to get everybody really galvanized. So we ask you to participate as much as you can, raise your voices for kids, and try to make the most of that day. And so when that wraps up, usually within an hour, then there's time for you to either go to those meetings that you set up with your legislators, or we will have a resource table in the annex. So we'll be in the rotunda for the rally, but if you go to the annex, that's where the legislator meetings would be, and that's where the cafeteria is in the basement if you want to get lunch. And then we will also have a resource table that you can stop by to ask questions. We'll have a few things there from KYA for folks to be able to grab if they're interested. So a lot happening that day. And we know we have several youth groups who are coming and doing other kind of VIP events and tours of the Capitol and that sort of thing. And so Jamie's been coordinating with those folks. So if we have any groups joining us today for the webinar, she will make sure that you have all of the information that you need, but please reach out if you have questions. And then finally on Thursday, we will have a final virtual event. we're calling it our, that AMA that people do on social media, that Ask Me Almost Anything with the legislator, because we had to set a little bit of parameters for our leaders. But we have Representative Stephanie Dietz and Senator Katura Herron, who have graciously accepted to participate in that, and I think they're really excited to be participants. And so when you sign up for that virtual event, we have a form there in which you can submit questions, and we will be looking at those and sharing those throughout that event. And so when you register, please submit a question, and it doesn't have to be super, specific about a bill or about, if you also just want to kind of get to know them or how they got to this space, or, what keeps them up at night, or, whatever it may be. We want to make this an open conversation, and usually those virtual events, it's a time to be able to, get to know our state leaders in a different way. So that's at 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Thursday. And finally, on Friday, we will just be celebrating and sharing photos and videos and clips from throughout the week on our social media. So if you don't already follow Kentucky Youth Advocates on Facebook, Instagram, please do so. We know we get lots of great photos of you all participating throughout the day, of our young people, our youth groups, interacting with our state leaders and all of that. So we'll share that highlights reel then, and we encourage you all to be, interacting with us throughout the week, and especially on that Friday, dropping in your photos and tagging us as much as you can, and we'll give a share. So I know I've seen some active some chats coming in with some questions. So Jamie, I'm going to turn it over to you to see if there are any that we need to call out, and if there are any that we have specific other questions on.
Yeah, thank you, Mara. Yeah, so feel free to drop any questions you may have in the chat or come off mute. There were a few, but it looks like they've been answered. One that I do want to highlight, someone asked if students could tune into these events. Absolutely, we would love that. If you're at a school or an organization that serves youth and you want to host a watch party in your classroom or wherever, please do so, especially the one that focuses on the next generation of legislators. But with that, I will wait a little bit and see if anything comes through the chat. And I know we have a lot going on, so there are many ways to get involved. Please continue to share, the events as you see them on socials. Share them with your colleagues, your networks, your neighbors. Anyone can get involved. All right, there's a question. Is there any funding available to help pay for buses to bring a group of students? We would love to have that opportunity. We do not have that currently. Thank you.
Hey, Jamie, I did just want to mention, I know we ran through it and we talked about the Children's Advocacy Week webpage, but just a reminder, that is going to be your main source of information going into next week and throughout next week. So bookmark that page. For those of you who have joined us in the past couple of years, we've had an app. We are not doing that anymore, but we do have that web page that if you haven't checked it out yet, it has all of the event details. And like I said at the beginning of my whole spiel, that is where Zoom links will be for that morning. There's an opportunity. We'll have the recording for this. We'll also have a evaluation survey. So once you attend any of our virtual events, or even the day at the Capitol next week, we encourage you to go there. It'll be in emails as well, but to give us feedback, let us know what your experience was like, what could have made it better, what you really enjoyed. So just bookmarking that page so that you have all of that information readily available at your fingertips. Everything should be on that page. And if it is not, or if you're having trouble finding something, let us know, reach out.
Thank you, Mara. All right, I don't see any more questions. Like we were saying, we all have a really busy week ahead of us, and we're thrilled about the chance to engage with you and our legislators and truly impact the lives of children in Kentucky. So again, be sure to register for and share our virtual events with colleagues and networks. Be sure to check out the Blueprint policy priorities, and if you don't know, find out who your legislators are ahead of time. But thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week.